Hey guys, it's Chris with City Girl Homestead. So, another day 2 of what Grandma cooked. And today is going to be shepherd's pie. And I know that everybody's going to say it's not shepherd's pie because it doesn't have lamb. But that's what my grandma called it. So that's what I'm calling it. I've got potatoes over there boiling because my grandma didn't use instant potatoes. I've never seen her use instant potatoes, actually. It was always real boiled potatoes. She'd keep potatoes in her cellar, everything else. She always had potatoes. So I'm going to put the hamburger in there, and we're going to cut up an onion to go in the hamburger. And while we're cooking this, I have to read you guys something. I have a question for you guys, though. I talked to the doctor on the phone yesterday, the ones that you call, and I told her the stuff hasn't cleared up yet. Is there something else you can give me? And she was going to give me a Z-Pack, and then she decided to give me something else. Well, when I went and picked it up, and because it's not one that I'd ever taken before, I looked up the side effects. And I haven't taken it yet. So, I'm wondering if any of you have had, let me tell you what it is here in just a minute. I almost called today and said, can you just give me a Z-Pack because I don't like all of the possible side effects of this one. I didn't, but I thought, you know what, I'm going to talk to you guys today and see if you've had any of this before. I still got the rest of that to do, but it's levofloxacin. Levofloxacin. And, like, it says something with your heart, just different kinds of things, and I'm like, ugh. If you guys have had good experience with it, I'll take it. But it just scared me, so I thought, well, you know what? I know a lot of the rest of you have went through what I'm going through with this. And she actually said that a lot of people are going through this. And she says that she thinks it's a lot of reinfection. You know, like her daughter got sick, so then she got sick, then her husband got sick. And, you know, on and on and on. So, and then the daughter's sick again. So, she thinks it's a lot of reinfection. Which it could very well be. Now, I've got about a pound of hamburger. I didn't measure it out. I bought 5 pounds. You know, in one of those brown things, which I usually don't do. But a little bit more cooked down, then I'll break it down more. So I was thinking, you know, there's a few of my recipes I have to use cream of mushroom soup. And I'm like, you know, there's a lot of pastas, potatoes, you know, and then cream of mushroom soup and all this other stuff. And I'm thinking, you know, first of all, my grandparents were poor. So that's why we're not having these super healthy meals, because they didn't have them. Back when they had their big garden, we'd have more fresh vegetables and stuff. But my grandmother canned everything. So a lot of it was for her home canned. So I read this and I thought, I'm going to print this out for you guys. Cream of mushroom soup is a simple type of soup which is a basic roux, is thinned with cream or milk, then mushrooms or mushroom broth are added. In North America, it's a common canned condensed soup. Cream of mushroom soup is often used as a base ingredient in casseroles and comfort foods. This is similar to that of mushroom-flavored gravy, which I've never used that before. And then I said the history of it, so like when did it come out, you know? Soups made with cream of mushroom have been made for hundreds of years based on French cream sauces. In America, the Campbell Soup Company began producing its canned cream of mushroom soup in 1934. Home cooks had already been using canned soup as a casserole or sauce base, and Campbell started publishing its own recipes based on it in 1941. So, I was like, did they even have that back in the day? So I looked it up, and yes, they did. Oh, you know what I forgot? To turn my oven on. I'm going to turn my oven on 350. So that could be why we come up with a lot of the cream of mushroom soup recipes, because it got used a lot back then. And then, you know, then they started creating their own recipes through the soup company, and so that could be why a lot of our grandmas actually used it. So let me cook this down a little bit, check my potatoes, and then I'm going to cheat on that a little bit, I think. We'll see. Alright, so I'm not going to cheat. My grandma never used, you know, like I do, a hand mixer to do her potatoes. She did it the old-fashioned way. And I'm going to do that today too, even though I want them creamier, but that's okay. So, my grandma, excuse me, she was born April 16th, 1923. And she was married May 18th, 1940. My grandpa was a lot older than her. A lot. He was actually, and I don't want to hear no hate, he was 40, and my grandma was 17. And when they got married, everybody said they wouldn't give it 6 months. And actually, when my grandfather died in 1982, my grandparents had been married for 42 years. And they had a good marriage. He used to go to her in the morning, at 8 o'clock in the morning, and he'd go, "Mom, time to get up." I don't know why he called her that, but he always did. He says, "Mom, it's time to get up." And, you know, were they like that busting out happy people? I don't know. But how my grandpa met my grandma's, he needed a place to go. And he came to work on my great-grandfather's farm. And I guess with them working together and everything, my grandparents fell in love. And I guess nowadays that just seems so gross. You know what I mean? Like, ugh, he was so old. But actually back then it was pretty common. And, yeah, so she had my first uncle in 1940. And he died actually in 1977. He was my favorite uncle of all. His name was Robert Lynn, and that's what I named my youngest one. It's Robert Lynn. He was a good man, very good man. Alright, so we're going to put a little butter in there because that's what Grandma did. So did my mom. But then I would assume she did it because my grandma did it. Actually, my mom, she didn't know how to cook when she first got on her own. I'll be honest. And I think that's why she cooked a lot of the same things over and over again. And they always used pepper in their mashed potatoes. But I think that's why, you know, my mom hadn't learned how to cook, and I think that's why she did the same things over and over again. But then I also think about it, you know, my mom was young when she got married too. She was 19, well, she was 18. And she had me when she was 19. And so, you know, she hadn't learned a lot. So my grandma, let me tell you a little bit about her. She, the reason I think her and I are so close, we're so close, is because when my mom first had me, she had issues with her gallbladder, and she was sick a lot. So my grandma pretty much raised me for the first 6 months of my life. And I think that's why her and I were so very, very close. And I looked just like my mom. And I'm sure, you know, my grandma had 3 boys and 1 girl. So, you know, that I looked like my mom and she took care of me. I think that made a huge, humongous difference. You know what I mean? And her and I were always, always tight. Always tight. And like I said yesterday, she was my favorite person ever. I can remember my grandpa, they nicknamed him Doc. And I asked him one day, I said, why do they call you Doc? And he goes, Chrissy, and he started laughing. And I go, what is it, Grandpa? And he said he gave poop pills to somebody, and it made them feel better. So ever since then, they had called him Doc. And they even gave him a lighter, you know, that said Doc on it. Yeah. I don't know where I was going with that, but anyway. My grandma actually was a woman before her time. She wasn't having any man step all over her. She had no part of that. And she was a very strong-willed woman. And I think I get a lot of that from her. She was, oh, I know. And everybody would be like, who's your grandparents? And I tell them Lynn and Juanita. And they go, oh, Lynn is such a great guy, blah, blah, blah. But that Juanita. And I'm like, what does that mean, you know? It's because back then a woman couldn't be as headstrong as she was. She was the nicest person in the world. She just didn't take people's crap. Now I'm going to add a can of that cream of mushroom soup. I got this out just in case. I know that was really weird, right? But yeah, she was definitely a woman before her time. And she, she was my protector. Life around my dad wasn't a good life sometimes. And my grandma always made it so that there could be childhood. You know what I mean? Like, I could actually be a kid. And I love that for her. She always was so protective of me. And to have someone in your corner all the time, can't beat that. Can't beat that. So I put mixed vegetables in there. And we're going to add a little bit of milk to that. And then we need salt and pepper. I don't add tons of salt because obviously the soup has salt in it. But I do like pepper. I just hope that, you know, like, there's been a couple of you that didn't get to experience grandparents at all. But they're grandparents now. And I hope that you are creating those memories that I felt with my grandparents. I mean, I love my grandpa like crazy too, just because I talk about my grandma. He was a really good man. He was a good man too. Matter of fact, if I could start life all over again, I would base the men that I would pick on my grandpa and my Uncle Bob. And if I would have stuck to that, I probably would have been in a lot less pain over life, you know? Because they were just those really stand-up kind of guys that, you know, they were there no matter what. And so just because I talk about my grandma doesn't mean my grandpa wasn't an amazing guy, because he was. He was a really good guy. Tell you a quick story about him after I get this all mixed up. That Bass Lake that I show you guys pictures of, we used to go there swimming all the time, and my grandpa was 66 when I was born. And there used to be this big barn, and it had a, it was like a bar, and, well, one of the big wigs of the town, they ran it out, but anyway, and it had steps that went down into the lake. Now the lake has went way, way down since I was a kid. And my grandpa would walk down the steps and he'd put me on his shoulders and let me jump in the water. And I mean, he was 66 years old when I was born. And this is probably when I was like 6 or 7. And so he was old. And he was just, yeah, he was pretty cool. I guess maybe through this next couple of weeks, maybe you'll learn a little bit more about me and you know, through my family and why I am so family oriented. So maybe you'll kind of learn that about me in the next couple weeks. And you know, I forgot something. I forgot cheese. So now we're going to put those potatoes on top. And I know I've made this for you guys before. But this is one thing that we'd have. Now my grandma, like I said yesterday, if we had leftovers, that's what we'd have the next day. And, you know, actually, it was a nice break from hamburgers and bologna sandwiches. For the longest time, I wouldn't even eat bologna. Because we'd had it so much when I was a kid that I just, just the idea of eating it grossed me out. Today we went to the store though, and I seen that olive loaf, and you know, I haven't had that in years. My grandma used to get that once in a while too, and I loved it. But you know, it's $4.69 for a little package. Isn't that crazy? Alright, so now we're going to put some cheese on the top. I guess I didn't need to get that other bag out. That's good. Look at that. Isn't that beautiful? I know, doing these videos, then we're going to put that in the oven, get everything heated up. Get the cheese melty. I like my potatoes to get a little bit browned. Or my potatoes. So I know that doing these videos actually has made my memories of my grandma come back a lot. And, you know, that's not a sad thing. That's a good thing. And I hope that through this next couple of weeks, you know, if you were so fortunate to have grandparents, I hope that you have their memories as well, because, you know, I wished I could have known my other grandparents, but I did know my step-grandpa. But anyway, he let chickens be in his house. Kind of creepy. And he's actually buried in between my grandma and his last wife. So that's kind of weird too, but yeah, he's buried next to her. But I think if we are fortunate enough to have grandparents, that, you know, they are a wealth of knowledge. And, you know, there are some older ladies and men on our channel, and if there's things that you'd like to know, ask them, you know, and I'm sure one of them will answer. Because I wished that I would have asked more questions. I wished I would have asked my grandma for more recipes, and I would have even spent more time with them. You know, we lived down here, they lived up there. It got pretty hard, you know, after we moved down here to spend quality time with them. But we still went up there on summers and spring breaks and Christmas breaks and all that. Can't imagine anywhere place on this world I would have rather been than at their house. You know, I think about it, and I spoil AJ and Emmy a lot. But you know something? My grandparents didn't have anything. They had a house and a car, and not a lot of money, and every once in a while my grandma would take me out to the Farmer in the Doll is what it was called. And we'd get ice cream, and it'd be a turtle. And she'd get it only with caramel because she had diabetes. And, you know, we'd go to auctions and things like that. Like, I can remember we went to an auction in Trufant. And my grandpa would let us dumpster dive after the auctions. And we found this big box of paint. And we had my Uncle Henry's old fish shanty that they let us turn into a playhouse. You guys. So my grandpa gave us each a paintbrush. And so we went to painting. And when black would run out, we'd go to blue. And you know, back then it was just bright, bold colors. It wasn't like the pretty pastels and stuff it has now. And we painted this whole fish shanty. All those different colors, and we used up that entire box of paint. And if any of you can remember the Partridge Family, that's kind of like what our clubhouse looked like. And you know, my grandparents never said anything like, man, that's such an eyesore, because it really was. They just was like, that's cool you guys did that, you know. And just because they didn't have money doesn't mean they weren't most amazing grandparents in the world. They couldn't buy you everything, but everything they could give you didn't cost a dime. And if they can hear you, you know, I love them both like crazy. And they were so good to us. And the spoiling came from their love. Their true, honest to God love. Get me to tear up. I can't imagine my life had I not had them in it. And how much better they made childhood. So, anyways, this is supposed to be a cooking thing, right? I'm going to let that continue to cook. And we'll pull it out. This is one of Tom's favorites, too. So, because his mom and everybody cook the same stuff. His mom is actually, because Tom is 10 years older than me. His mom, I think, is just a little bit younger than what my grandma would have been. So, yeah. They're in the same, you know, age group. Well, they were. But anyways, I'll be back. This is going to be a super long video. I'm sorry. And there we go. It's finished. I'm going to dish it up. Tom will be here any second, and we'll get him to do a taste test. Hi, Tom.
Hello.
How are you?
Just dandy.
How was work?
Good.
Awesome. So we have shepherd's pie, or what you call hamburger pie.
Mm-hmm.
And I actually hand mashed my potatoes and not use the hand mixer.
Ooh.
Give it a try.
You didn't blend them?
I did by hand. My grandma would have never used a hand mixer.
You whisked them?
No, I smashed them.
Mm.
What do you think?
Good.
One of your favorites, ain't it?
Mm-hmm.
Because it's got mashed potatoes.
Mm-hmm.
You're going to get a lot of that the next couple weeks. Pastas, too.
I like potatoes.
And pasta, huh?
Mm-hmm.
How's yours, Jack?
Right. Very good.
Alrighty, we're going to let these guys eat. We got that much left. We'll see who fights over it. You guys have a blessed night. Be a blessing. And goodbye, Tom.
Bye, Tom.
Bye, Jack.
Bye.
Have a good night, guys.